The rain came down hard that evening, turning the cracked sidewalks into rivers and the rusted street lamps into flickering ghosts. Daniel adjusted the frayed hood of his jacket as he hurried through the last stretch of his walk from the diner where he had cleaned tables for a few extra bucks. His boots, soaked through, made wet slapping sounds as he trudged toward the aging apartment complex that he and his daughter called home. The apartment wasn't much, just one small room with peeling wallpaper, a kitchenette, and a sofa that doubled as a bed for his daughter, Lila. The building itself smelled faintly of mildew and old paint, but to Daniel, it was safety, shelter, something he fought every day to keep. Inside, Lila sat on the couch, bundled up in a blanket too thin for the season. Her big brown eyes lit up when Daniel walked through the door. "Daddy, you're home," she chirped, despite the obvious chill in the air. He smiled, tired but genuine. "Hey, sunshine, you finish your drawing." Lila held up a crayon-scribbled picture of the two of them holding hands under a bright yellow sun. The innocence in her art melted away a small piece of the day's burden on his shoulders. Daniel set his wet jacket on the back of a chair and headed to the cupboard. It was almost empty, just a few packets of noodles and half a loaf of bread. He tried not to let the worry show on his face. As he poured water into a battered pot, a sudden knock echoed from the front door. He turned, frowning. No one visited them, not at this hour. He glanced at Lila, who had gone still, clutching her drawing. With cautious steps, Daniel approached the door and opened it just a crack. Standing there, drenched from head to toe, was a young woman in her early 20s. Her coat was soaked, her dark hair clung to her face, and her eyes looked both frightened and desperate. She wrapped her arms tightly around herself as she shivered. "I'm sorry," she said, voice shaky. I missed the last bus. My phone's dead. I just needed somewhere dry to sit until the rain stops." Daniel didn't respond right away. His instincts screamed caution. He had Lila to think about. What if she was trouble? The girl must have sensed his hesitation, because she added quickly, "I'm not dangerous. I swear, I've just had a really rough day. Please, I'll sit in the corner. I won't even talk if you don't want me to. I just can't stay outside anymore." Daniel looked over his shoulder at Lila, who was now sitting up, her teddy bear clutched tightly to her chest. He sighed. Every bone in his body wanted to protect his daughter, but something in the girl's eyes spoke of honest desperation. And he knew what it was like to be turned away when you had nowhere left to go. "You can come in," he said finally, opening the door wider. "It's not much, but at least it's dry." "Thank you," the girl whispered, stepping inside quickly. She wiped her shoes on the mat and immediately went to sit near the wall, away from Lila. "I promise, I'll be gone by morning." Daniel nodded and turned back to the pot. "I'm making noodles. It's all we have, but you can have some if you're hungry." The girl's lips trembled, not from the cold, but from something deeper. She nodded, barely whispering, "That would be really kind of you." "Thank you." Lila, curious and brave, peeked over the blanket. "Daddy, can she sit with me?" Daniel hesitated again, but the girl was already smiling, soft and unsure. "I'm Emily," she said gently. "What's your name?" "Lila," the little girl answered, climbing off the couch. "You look like a princess from a storybook, even though you're wet." Emily laughed, short and surprised. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all day." Daniel handed out 3 chipped bowls of noodles a few minutes later, and for the first time in weeks, the tiny apartment felt full, not just of people, but of warmth. As the rain continued to hammer the city outside, 3 strangers, connected by kindness, need, and a little bit of faith, shared a quiet meal under one roof, unaware that one night would change all their lives forever. The storm outside had softened to a steady drizzle, the angry thunder fading into distant rumblings. Inside the tiny apartment, the atmosphere had shifted. What started as an act of compassion was turning into something more, an unexpected comfort shared between strangers. Daniel sat cross-legged on the worn-out carpet, his back resting against the chipped wall, while his daughter, Lila, giggled softly as she tried to teach Emily how to braid the hair of her only doll. The candlelight flickered on their faces, casting soft shadows and making the small space feel almost magical. Emily had changed into an old sweatshirt Daniel had offered her. It hung off her shoulders and smelled faintly of detergent and thyme. Lila had given her a pair of her own socks too, bright pink, with cartoon puppies on the toes. They barely fit Emily, but she wore them with a grateful smile, not daring to reject the innocent offering. "You have a very cool name," Lila said suddenly, her little fingers twisting a braid into the doll's yarn hair. "Emily sounds like someone in a princess book." Emily chuckled, brushing a lock of damp hair behind her ear. "You think so?" Lila nodded seriously. "Yup, but you don't look like a princess right now. More like a brave traveler in disguise." Daniel laughed quietly at that. "She's got an imagination, this one." "She has something even better," Emily replied, glancing down at Lila with a softness in her eyes. "She has warmth. A big heart." Daniel nodded slowly. "She's the reason I keep moving forward." The room fell into a peaceful quiet. The only sounds were the occasional creak of the wind against the window and the bubbling of water on the stove as Daniel made more tea. Emily looked around at the small home, the peeling wallpaper, the patched-up heater, the mismatched dishes drying on the counter. It wasn't much, but it radiated a kind of peace she hadn't felt in years. "Do you do all this alone?" Emily asked softly, her eyes meeting Daniel's across the room. He nodded. "Lila's mom left when she was just 2. Said this life wasn't what she signed up for. I didn't blame her. I wasn't exactly bringing in diamonds." "I'm sorry," Emily murmured. "Don't be," Daniel replied. "We made it work. Lila gives me more strength than I ever thought I had. And honestly, we're happy, even when we're broke." Emily looked down, her fingers tugging at a loose thread on the blanket wrapped around her. "Money doesn't fix everything," she said quietly. "Sometimes it just makes the cracks harder to see." Daniel tilted his head. "You sound like someone who's seen both sides." She hesitated. Her fingers stopped moving. "Let's just say, I've lived in big houses that never felt this warm. With people who looked perfect on the outside, but never knew how to love without conditions." He didn't press her. He didn't need to. Sometimes, a person's silence said more than their words. Lila yawned, her head resting on Emily's lap now. She blinked slowly, trying to keep herself awake. "You can sleep," Emily whispered, gently brushing Lila's hair from her face. "I'll be right here." Daniel smiled. "She trusts you. That's rare." "I don't know why," Emily said, almost to herself. "But I feel like I belong here tonight. Like I was meant to end up at your door." Daniel glanced at the window. The rain had nearly stopped now, but something in the air told him this wasn't the end of their time together. "Not yet." He handed Emily a warm cup of tea. Their fingers brushed for a moment, just enough to exchange a silent gratitude neither of them fully understood yet. "Sometimes," Daniel said thoughtfully, "people walk into your life for a reason. Maybe they're lost, maybe they're searching, but sometimes, they help you find a part of yourself too." Emily nodded, holding the cup close to her chest. "And sometimes," she said softly, looking at Lila sleeping peacefully, "a stranger can feel like home." They sat there for a while longer in quiet companionship. No longer strangers, but not yet something else. Just two people who, in the middle of a storm, found a moment of peace, connection, and something quietly powerful,